أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I think I've got it right. For some reason, I've logged in to StreamYard, but it's given me a different account. So we've got the weird little duck logo that shouldn't be there. And I don't have access to the cool intro videos. So I don't know what's happened there. We've had a bit of a flop, but yeah, hope you're all well. We'll just make do with this one for the time being. And assalamu alaikum all. So today we're going to be doing another little Lighthouse live session, inshallah. And the whole aim of these is basically to do similar to what we do on our own, basically. So for those of you who are not aware, we have a project currently underway through Sapiens Institute called the Lighthouse Project. And the Lighthouse Project aims to help people with their doubts. I'll tell you what, I'll pull up the website. Take you through it, inshallah. All right. Present, share screen. Sapiens Institute. There. Okay. So yeah, if you go to sapiensinstitute.org, you see at the top you've got request mentoring, or there's a little button there that says Lighthouse Mentoring as well. So clicking that, it should take you to this page. And the service, it says here that basically it's for ex-Muslims, so people that have left Islam because of intellectual, spiritual, or emotive doubts, students, university, college students who are trying to reconcile an Islamic identity with the vicissitudes of college life, non-Muslims, people who are interested in Islam, leaders. So it's not just dealing with doubts or questions people may have, but if someone is wanting to actively get engaged in dawah and they're not quite sure where to begin, we've helped people sort of build strategies or to think about it in a more comprehensive way, how to get started, like from step one. Basically, some people they have no connections to any dawah community whatsoever in their area, or no one in their community is giving dawah, and they want to know how do we get started with that. So we can help people with that. Du'at, preachers, activists, or du'at engaged in the work of sharing Islam or dawah. So even if you're already doing that and you're thinking of how to expand, or you're coming across certain problems or questions and you're thinking of ways of how to best respond to them, we can also help you with that. And it goes a bit further. I've helped people as well. They're in uni and they're trying to, there's not just any random degree, but things specifically engaged in stuff related to Islam and giving dawah, or basically the Sapiens mission. And people have come and booked a meeting and we've discussed strategies on how to establish their essay plans and things like that for their dissertation related to things like dealing with scientism, being one example, among other things. So the whole service is free. So it's not one that's charged. You could book a private, and it's as well, they're not made public. They are kept completely private, one-to-ones, with one of our mentors, which would either be myself, Brother Hamza, Dr. Uthman, Fahad, Salim Shakhtar, who's currently joined us. There's also Brother Abdurrahman, but he's on and off, and Brother Jake used to as well. Inshallah, I'm going to get Brother Abdurrahman and Jake back on at some point in the future, possibly. And other than that, we are also getting a few new members. So we're getting Brother Abbas and Dr. Imran from EF Dawah to join us as well, inshallah. And there's another brother who I'm currently in the process of sort of trying to train up, all of which is currently underway. And yeah, so you'll have an opportunity to speak to either of these brothers or myself privately with regards to either doubts or leadership and dawah, etc. You can book one of these meetings. You pick from the available times, and you pick one of the time slots, whichever day that happens to be, and then you fill it in. And then once you've filled it in, that will basically send it through to admin. It'll either be approved. When you're filling it in, by the way, so the box, it tells you like, give us information. Make sure you read things, because people have a tendency to book these and not read anything, which is not what you should be doing. You should be making sure you read. So here it says, what questions do you have? What doubts or topics do you wish to discuss? Be specific, as your mentor needs this information to prepare. If this is not filled in correctly, it will be declined. And people have, one person filled in saying no. So that was one way of, and some people don't fill anything, or they'll just say, I have doubts. It's like, yeah, we know you have doubts. You've picked the help with doubts. Like, what is it that you wish to engage with? Is it a particular topic? Is it to do with morality? Is it to do with proofs of God? Is it to do with Quran or Qira'at or whatever it is? Like, just give us some information to work off. And then this gets forwarded to your mentor. And then if they need to prepare at all, they're able to do so. Make sure to obviously read these. Some people do this and they've not read them. So unfortunately, the service does have to be, you need to be 18 or over for legal reasons. We can't provide the service to people under the age of 18 at the moment, but inshallah, we are trying to look into that and expand on that. And make sure to read the Lighthouse Mentoring terms and conditions, which you can do so there. But yeah, it's a free service. It's private. It's one-to-one. It's done through Zoom. You have a whole hour to discuss whatever you wish. Sometimes it gets finished earlier. Sometimes it doesn't. And yeah, and you just have an opportunity to just talk with one of the mentors about whatever it is that you wish to do. So today, inshallah, there's 13 of you. Assalamu alaikum to those 13. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. HBH 786 and Muhammad Latif. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Brother from Kashmir. Is Abu Zakaria joining the team in the future, inshallah? So I've not actually asked him, but I could reach out to him and see if he would be interested. Jazakallah khairan for the suggestion. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. Allahu alam. But always worth asking a brother. But wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, Sayyid. So I guess if any of you have got any questions or anything in particular you would like to discuss on the subjects that we cover with Lighthouse, don't ask fiqh questions. I'm not a sheikh. I can't give fatwas, and it's not really the purpose of this stream to answer fiqh questions and stuff like that. If you're struggling with certain doubts, ask away, and I'll try my best to answer them. And we could discuss certain things. If no one has any particular questions, I guess I'll just pick something random to talk about. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're both well. Do you have a video disproving or deconstructing solipsism? I don't personally, but I guess if you want to ask, or like make an argument for solipsism. So I guess what I'll do, I'll begin by telling people how they should engage with these things, because I know it's a common trend. Like, let's say you're in the position of belief. Like, I am in a position of belief. I got here through a number of things. Took a long time. Started looking into Islam when I was about 17. Didn't take Shahada till I was about 24. A lot of that was talking to Muslims, engaging in a dialogue with them, asking them questions, them asking me questions, and putting forward positions. They would put forward one, I would put forward one, I would push back against theirs, they would push back against mine. Now, if someone just comes to me and just says, but solipsism, I'm going to go, all right, you could just say any random word to me. It does, like, I'm not that fussed about these terms, and I'm not in the process of trying to prove things for people without them giving me an argument. Now, there's many ways to argue for different positions, like whether it's solipsism, moral relativism, utilitarianism. People take different paths to each of these positions. Solipsism in particular may have many arguments that get people there, and people may differ in regards to why they're solipsists. So what I would do is I would ask the question, well, why are you a solipsist? Or what is a solipsist for you as well, in particular, because people differ in terms. You might talk to two people who identify as a radical skeptic, and you might find that they actually are not that radically skeptical about certain things. So it's always worth just asking questions and getting them to present a position. Now, if there's a particular argument that's got you in a rut on this in particular, then give me the argument and I can analyze it with you, or we can talk about it and discuss it. I've just spilled my brew. Bear with me. A towel. But I wouldn't. I find, and I don't know, because you can't really tell much from a tiny little comment like this. I'll tell you, I can put the link out. Maybe you can jump on and we can talk. You want to jump on the stream? You will need to put your camera on for a brief moment, just so I can check you're not a troll, and do something that I command you to do, like wave or hold up a certain amount of fingers. And so we have many dramas on live streams in past with other channels that I wish to avoid. But yeah, so feel free to give me more information. Like, what is it about solipsism, for example, do you want me to deal with? Like, why should we take it seriously? Like, what is it? What are the reasons given that make you think solipsism is something that needs dealing with in particular? Because that's basically how I would deal with these things. I'm not fond of just someone says a particular thing, a word, a catchphrase, a term, and then I'm just supposed to deal with that. Because that, what always happens then is I might then approach one particular argument, and then someone goes, no, but that's not a good argument. There's these other arguments, or you strawmanned it, or that's not the position, because they hold they've taken a different path or a different route to that position. What is solipsism? So solipsism, in particular, is a belief that you can't really know anything beyond maybe your own existence. Let's have a look at what, rather than just going off the top of my head. So solipsism is the philosophical idea that only one's mind is sure to exist. An epistemological position, solipsism holds that knowledge of anything outside one's own mind is unsure. There's a really good way, I guess, if someone is stuck in that, it's simply put as that. Maybe get yourself a little candle and a little lighter. Light the candle. You don't even need the candle. You can probably just do it with the lighter. But just get them to hover their hand over the candle for as long as they possibly can, getting it as close as they possibly can. And eventually, I think they'll realize the candle exists. Eventually, they'll get burnt. And yeah, maybe they could still be skeptical. But I don't know, I just find it to be a really... I find it to be a silly position for a number of reasons. Number one, I don't think, I guess it depends on why the person is a solipsist. I think a lot of the time people become solipsists because they try to do something, like they try to prove the external world with deductive argument, and every time they try to do it, they fail, or they find it difficult to do so, and so they end up moving from this idea that, well, if I can't deductively prove it, then I can't believe it exists, as if everything needs a deductive argument in order for you to be justified in believing in its existence. Now, I think that's absurd. I don't think that is reasonably something you can expect of every person on the planet, to be able to give deductive arguments for belief in things which pretty much everyone takes for granted, apart from these odd individuals that get stuck in this sort of philosophy rabbit hole. And for me, belief in the external world is something I would just call a basic belief, or something that you don't need a rational argument for. Because if you're going to be saying that you need a deductive argument or everything needs some sort of deductive argument in order to be justified in believing it, then you need to provide a deductive argument for that proposition. You need to give me a deductive argument that shows absolutely that every argument needs a deductive argument. Because if you can't provide an argument for that particular claim, that everything that in order to be justified in believing it, it needs a rational argument, you can't make that claim without giving me a rational argument for it. And you end up going either like you go brain dead and you just go, oh, well, apart from that one thing, or you take this like infinite route where you try to give some sort of argument, and then each premise in that also needs an argument, and then each premise in that argument needs an argument, and you just end up going on forever. You don't really get anywhere. And so yeah, it's the whole thing, I think, is built around this idea that everything needs a rational argument. I don't think the external world does. Bismarck. Deductive reasoning is not something you're born good at. No one is born rational or reasonable in the same way that no one is born strong. Like if you want to become fit, you want to become healthy, you want to become the world's strongest man, you don't do that from birth. You got to train, you've got to work, you've got to put in effort and energy in particular practices to be able to become good at it. And it's the same with rationality or reasoning. And just not everyone has access to to that kind of education. Like, you know, the farmer, the cleaner, you know, your random Joe, are they really expected to be able to give a deductive syllogism that's sound and completely unflawed, and then go through the process of defending it rigorously against some PhD in order to be justified in believing that the external world exists and then engaging with it as if it does? I think this is just something you can take for granted. The external world exists. You know, if you put your hand in the fire, you're not going to be a solipsist while you're screaming in pain. Or if you're kidnapped and someone is, you know, taking away your freedom from you and limiting you, and you're not able to do whatever you want, you're going to come to a point where you have to admit that there are things external to you that act upon you that you don't have control over, that the external world does have some sort of existence. It doesn't mean you have to know everything about it, or know it in some sort of complete manner. But yeah, I don't know. What else is being said? So we've got 17 people. So for those of you who've just joined, we're going to do like a little Lighthouse Live session. If you've not heard of Lighthouse, it's a service that Sapiens Institute offers for free, where you can go to our website and you can book a meeting with us, or with me, or one of the other mentors, completely free, and it's completely private. So they're not like this. This is just to advertise the service. It's not going to be something put on the internet. It is kept completely confidential, and something you don't need to worry about sharing with people, or people being exposed to whatever it is that you've that's worrying you. I'm trying to find the tab again. So you can go to the website here. There's a little button here that says Lighthouse Mentoring. It's free, private, one-to-one, done through Zoom. And you get an hour where you can talk to one of our mentors and discuss whatever it is that you're having trouble with doubts or questions. If you're wanting to engage in Dawah, if you're not sure where to begin, or if you're already engaging in Dawah, or you're trying to give Dawah to someone and you're not too sure how to approach it, or the best ways of approaching it, all of these discussions we can have here for free. So the doubts or leadership, and you can do that by just going to sapiensinstitute.org. I'll put the link here. sapiensinstitute.org/Lighthouse. So it should be in the live chat now, and it will also, inshallah, be in the description to this video. So feel free to book a private one if you would rather talk privately, or if you don't mind, feel free to post your question in the chat or jump on the stream. There's more. All right. What's Sifat Islam saying? According to the contingency argument, the existence of the universe can or cannot be. It's not according just to the contingency argument. This is, I would guess, something you could say whether or not you're making a contingency argument. You would look at the universe. You say, "Oh well, the universe, everything has a beginning." They even say that the universe will come to an end at some point. It'll die a heat death, or it'll dissipate into nothingness as well. So things have beginnings, things have ends. That existence can be turned on. That existence can be turned off. So that's what it means to be contingent. And it can be in any different way. So it is contingent. You don't have to even make mention of the fact that it could be different in terms of its variation. You could just focus on the fact that its existence could be turned on or off. But yeah, some do go down the route of different ways. So it is contingent. My question is, how can I think of a non-existent universe? Isn't it contradictory? Why are you trying to think of a non-existent universe? Because a non-existent universe, I guess it depends what you mean by that. So by a non-existent universe, are you thinking like a hypothetical universe that doesn't exist but could do? Or are you talking about nothing and then adding the term universe to the nothingness where there is no thing? Like which of the two are you talking about? Isn't it contradictory? I mean, the mind would argue that thinking of a non-existent universe, well, it depends what you mean by a non-existent universe. So like if you're talking about nothingness, like absolutely nothing, I just would not apply the word universe to that at all. I'll just refer to it as nothing. But if you're talking about a universe that could potentially exist but doesn't at the moment, and you're just talking about it hypothetically, then there's nothing contradictory in that, because you're talking about what could be. Like, for example, like if I'm talking about a car that could exist, and that this car, it's non-existent at the moment, but if it did exist, it would have these big curly wings that went, and the wings would be this color that grades very, very gradually from polar opposite colors or something. I don't know, like just a list of attributes that are random of a thing that doesn't exist yet. Yeah, or you go back in time and you got some little medieval people sat around and they're talking about this thing that's going to be metal, and it doesn't exist yet. Like there's nothing completely inconceivable or contradictory about them talking about these things. Oh, look at this. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, bro. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, very well. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So yeah, Jazakallah khair for joining us. Yeah, we're just doing a little Lighthouse live. It's not going to be for long. It's just for another 35 minutes. We'll finish at 8 p.m. inshallah.
Alhamdulillah.
But Brother Imran has kindly offered his services for the Lighthouse Project as well. So
that's my honor, brother. Mashallah, you're doing it's excellent work. Mashallah, very much needed. I haven't seen any of the streams so far, so I've literally got the message, and I thought I'd just jump on, inshallah.
Yeah, there's not much going on yet. I have posted the link. I'm just trying to address this question. So someone's asking about, according to the contingency argument, the existence of a universe can or cannot be, and it can be in a different way, and that's why it's contingent. The question is can I think of a non-existent universe? Isn't it contradictory? So I'm just trying to explain that it depends what you mean. Like if you're talking about nothingness and trying to call that a universe,
yeah,
then you're adding this thing to something which is a not thing, and then that becomes a contradiction.
You're trying to give a property to a non-existent thing.
Yeah. But if it's just talking about something that could potentially exist, like a universe where me and you are on opposite sides, or I'm in your house and you're in my office,
Yeah, you're welcome anytime, by the way.
And you to mine as well. That lovely couch. It's all a bit background blurred, but
Alhamdulillah.
yeah. So that I wouldn't say that would be contradictory, even though it doesn't exist.
It's another possibility, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So this is your field, so I'm sure that you're.
Yeah, I think he's just sort of he's got himself mixed. I don't know. His question's not very clear, so I don't really know what he means in particular. But he, like, so just going on into it more, he says, I mean that the mind would argue that thinking of a non-existent universe is a contradiction, because thinking of a non-existent universe would require a thinking entity. For example, can I imagine holding a ball in my hand while simultaneously imagining that I don't exist? Well, no, you wouldn't be able to. But thinking about a non-existent universe doesn't require you to think that. I don't know. I think you're overcomplicating it.
Yeah. Is the maybe I don't understand the question. Is the question about another universe that is like this universe but different somehow, but doesn't actually exist?
Yeah.
Or is it actually the question about thinking of something that doesn't exist and calling that a universe? They're two different things, aren't they? What's intended by
I've put the link in, so you're welcome to jump on, and maybe we can like talk you through. And the question is as well, I guess, why is this bothering you, or is it bothering you? Is it something like, as if it's just like a question, then fair enough, it's not that big a deal. But if this is something that's like keeping you up at night, then obviously,
I think the brother's made a comment there.
Understood. I mix nothingness with, okay. Yeah, so like if you're mixing two terms together that are contradictory, then it would become contradictory. But just like, I don't see how like hypothesizing, for example, about a potential universe that could exist, even though it doesn't, would be in the same way that I could talk about that car that I mentioned. Like, it's got curly wings and it has like these big ribbons that come out of the windows. Like, it might not exist. Well, they're saying that kind of car probably exists these days, but like, just pointing at something that doesn't exist yet isn't enough to say that it's a contradiction, because you're not saying that it does exist. The contradiction is when you're asserting two properties of the thing simultaneously in the same way about the same thing in the same everything. So one example is the married bachelor. You're saying, like, if I say, Brother Imran here, mashallah, he's a married bachelor, you can say, well, no, that's contradictory, because you're saying that he is married and simultaneously in the same way at the same time he's not married. But you can't make both of those claims about the same thing. You're not saying anything like that when you're talking about a non-existent universe that you're hypothesizing about, because you're not claiming that it does exist. If you said that this non-existent universe does exist, that would be the contradiction. That's when you've just got to be careful with the language. And I think this is the biggest problem with philosophy, is sometimes language is the weirdest thing. Like, even simple words, sometimes I say, like, I like porridge in the morning, and I put banana in my porridge. But the word banana, sometimes just doesn't look like a word to me. You know what I mean? Or flamingo is another, or aubergine. There's some words, you say them enough, and they just stop seeming like words.
Is that like a northern thing or something? Or?
I don't know. I thought it was a human thing. Am I the only one? Have you never had that experience where you're looking at a word and it stops looking like a word? Or who? Have you never looked at who and thought, why is that said who? Wha? What? Why is what? Who?
Yeah, so so we get lots of words like pneumonia, the P silent.
That's another one.
And then we have lots of these,
pneumonia,
or phone. But if you give it to a child, they'll try and say the P initially, and then that's intuitive. Yeah, lots of those types of things.
Yeah, with English, you can spell fish as this. Is it this?
The PH.
It's only one T. I've spelled it with two T's. There we go. That's fish.
In English?
Yeah.
Okay, mashallah. I never knew that. I'm learning. I should come here more often. I learned something new.
That's fish. You want to know why it's fish? I can tell you why it's fish.
Is that like a Gaelic dialect or something?
No. So it's the GH
Yeah.
from enough.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so you got the f. It's a GH from enough. And then you've got the O from women. And then you've got the TI from potion.
Shion. From where? Sorry.
Potion.
Potion. Okay. Yeah.
So GH is the f from enough. F. The O is the I from women. And the TI is the sh from potion. So fish. But it's just because English is a weird language. That's the bottom of it. It's a mishmash of many different places because we were just getting invaded from every angle constantly.
Yes. So you must be indigenous from everywhere, mashallah.
Yeah.
You know the sessions that you do, the Lighthouse sessions, mashallah. When you do these events like that you're talking now, you're doing this live stream. Is the purpose to answer questions, or are you talking about the Lighthouse?
Yeah, no, to answer questions as well. So basically, what the point of these, it's kind of like, you know, I was meaning to speak to you about this as well, but it's kind of like the doubt busters. But
Okay,
I need to advertise the service because it's a private one. Some people get anxious about asking questions publicly or going online. And
of course.
There's a certain character type that inclines towards jumping on a live stream, and there's obviously the introverts struggle with that. So this service is here, I guess, to make up for that lack in the market, because we've got lots of live streams going on everywhere, and people can jump onto Mashallah EF Dawah, you know, Hamza's Den. There's millions of them. Where you can jump on, you can have these conversations publicly, but not everyone can do that. So these are private, free, one-to-one. We don't want to put any barriers in people's way. The information that you provide is not made public. It's kept private, and you can chat to either myself or to Brother Hamza, or inshallah not too far in the future, Brother Imran.
Inshallah.
And Abbas, inshallah, is joining as well. And we've got a few other brothers who are engaged in the mentoring. So you can just have this nice conversation, and the majority of them go really well. Alhamdulillah. Like, I have had so many nice conversations with people that are just panicking over something, and you talk them through it, and then the heart just settles, and they go, "Oh, I feel silly now." Right? And but sometimes people just need that discussion, and I think one of the biggest problems at the moment is many mosques are not really equipped to answer some of the weird questions. Like may Allah bless him, Brother Sifat Islam. It's not, when I say weird, I don't mean like you're weird. Like, I mean, it is these questions can get a bit abstract and a bit out there. And I think for the average person that maybe attends the mosque, they've maybe probably not even thought in that much detail about these type of things. So when they hear these kind of questions, it just goes over their head, or they don't know how to respond, or they panic and they react badly. And yeah, it's a shame. So this service,
I mean, we get lots of emails, you personally as well as to EF Dawah, and I'm sure everyone is the same, of people just sort of, you know, can you help me with this sort of specific question or something? And it's often that they're not able to come onto a live stream, or they don't want to. So I think this is a really essential service. I think the other thing that is really useful about this is that you get time to talk to somebody one-to-one. And that's really missing in other forum, another sort of platforms. You can't really do that. So those two things combined, if you have something that you think is, you know, I don't really want to talk about this openly, and also I need a bit of time to explain what's happened and what I'm thinking, then this is sort of, it's open to that. And I think that gives people a bit of reassurance that it's private, it's available, you can book it at your own, you know, your convenience.
And it's not rushed as well. Like, sometimes with the live streams, it's like, right, you've got one point you can make, you're going through that, and then we've got to push you off and get the next person on. And it's not necessarily done with bad intent. It's just, if you've got, like, for example, you got these live streams, sometimes you have like 50 people waiting in the back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And like, you don't want to like just give one person 5 hours of time, and then everyone sat down in the back waiting for their turn, and they don't get an opportunity, and the stream ends. Whereas with this, like, you book a service. If you get through everything in one session, alhamdulillah. If you don't, you can book another session. You can book it at the same day, at the same time, and get through to the same person. Or you can book it on another day and inshallah maybe get through to someone else. But yeah, it's there for as often as you need it. and you can keep coming back. Obviously, the whole point of the service is to sort of equip you to be able to deal with these things yourself. Like we want to, the whole, the saying that we generally give is we want to teach you how to fish, not just be the person that gives you fish every time you're hungry. And the whole point of the conversations is we're not just trying to answer the question, but we're trying to get you to think in such a way where you can go away and deal with them yourself. Because like me, for example, I do about 50% of the sessions that we're doing at the moment. And I get a lot of questions, and a lot of them I just don't know the answer to. Sometimes it's just like, good question, I don't know. And like, I don't go into a state of panic. And some people do, like they come across a question. It's very, very common. Like I literally had like one session after the other where it was just like one brother suffering from the very same thing as the next. Not necessarily the same topic, but in the same way. Like they come across something, and the way he presented it, it was like he was having a discussion. He was giving dawah to someone, and they put him on the spot, and he was like, and then I don't know how to answer it. And then, I'm like, am I a kafir? Have I left? It's not like, and they go into a state of panic where they can't sleep. They get into a state of depression, and then they ring me, and I'm like, so why do you think that makes you a kafir? Like, just simply because you don't know the answer to a question. That's like saying I'm a kafir if I'm not the all-knowing. Like that's not how it works. You are finite. There are going to be things you don't know the answer to, and that's completely normal. And you need to be able to like come across certain things and go, oh, that's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to that. I will look into it. Or like, inshallah, Allah will give me the answer at some point. Because there's some questions as well that like you get the answers to straight away. Like you go on a Google search, or you ask a sheikh, or you reach out to a friend or something, and you get the answer like that. There's some that take ages. And there's some like that you might never get. Because it's not incomprehensible that there are some things you're just not going to get the answers to.
Yeah.
There's lots of things like that. But a lot of the time, it's just trying to instill these virtues in people. Virtues of things like patience, etc. Getting people to.
There's a sort of, because there's a couple of reasons. Because this is sort of an indicative of something more fundamental. So either, depending on who the person is, either you haven't really built the foundations for yourself very strongly, so that when things do come along, they affect you quite a lot, and it upturns you. Your worldview is affected quite strongly, and sometimes it can be because if you're born into Islam, you've been complacent about the learning, or you've come into Islam very intellectually, and you haven't really laid your foundations yet. Something else comes along and it can rock you quite strongly, and that's probably an indication that let's sit down and work out why you believe what you believe and where you've established sort of your foundations from, and get sort of learning, get yourself spiritually strong, and then you can move into these areas of looking at things. The other thing, it might be a personality thing. So I meet lots of people who are very anxious, and little things can sort of make you suddenly, it can make you very anxious about everything. So a small anxiety becomes a big anxiety. It's sort of a ripple effect, starts affecting other things. And so I suppose it depends on who you come across, but sometimes it can indicate other things that need to be dealt with. And this is a nice way to find out. You don't want to find out on a live stream. Having a nice chat with someone who cares is probably the nice way to do it, mashallah.
And this is the thing as well. Like I can't even count how many people I've spoken to privately, but you start to see certain patterns, and it like you recognize that there is this intimate relationship between the heart and the mind. Like there isn't this big wall between them like people try to make out. It's they are connected, and that when your heart is affected, that does affect your ability to reason. And we know this because when people are heartbroken, for example, they do very, very stupid things, thinking that they're completely rational. Mashallah, we've got a brother in the back. He's giving us a little wave. Just give us I'll tell you what, I'll just bring you on. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
How are you?
Brother Yusuf, Brother Imran, how are you?
Alhamdulillah. Very good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. I like it. It really piques my interest. The point you were trying to explain to the brother in the chat about all the existence and the non-existence, and it brought me to think about this verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, let me read it in English because I don't memorize it in English. So it says, we did indeed offer the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, but they refused to undertake it, being afraid thereof. But man undertook it. He was indeed unjust and foolish. So when we look at this verse, when we talk about the other reality, because in the Quran, God says that when فَكَشَفْنَا عَنْكَ غِطَاءَكَ فَبَصَرُكَ الْيَوْمَ حَدِيدٌ. That means after we die, it's like a cover gets unveiled from our eyes, and our vision becomes so strong. We get to see some things that we couldn't see, or we saw blurry when we were alive.
Yeah.
And so what I meant by mentioning the first verse is that everything that God created worships Him with no condition, with no choice, and God gave us that trust to where we will have a choice in life. When we say insan is mukhayyar or musayyar, if we were given a choice to actually make our own decision for a brief period of time in this life, are we going to worship God or not? And we said that we will, because God explicitly explained to us that we have made this choice. We have decided to undertake this challenge, because a lot of the atheists keep saying, why is God unjust? Why would He punish us for a test that He know we're gonna fail? And it's not true, because God is telling us that we chose this test, and He tells us that we were transgressors and unjust and foolish for choosing to take this test. And the reward from this test is so great. We're gonna be raised to uh, uh, such a high position from passing this test. And now that we are at this moment in life, we are already in the test. We can't see anymore. Like the way I try to describe it to some friends when I talk about this topic, if you're familiar, brothers, with the virtual reality, when you put on those goggles and you can see all these things around you,
Yeah.
I tell them, imagine that you put on the reality goggles, virtual reality goggles, and then there are all these electrodes that are attached to your skull, and so you can feel everything around you to the point where it's like so real. You can feel things, you can taste things, you can. And right before you put the goggles on, you're told that this is a tough test, that once you're immersed in that virtual reality, you will forget everything that's around you on the outside world, like people standing around you watching.
Oh, did we lose you?
Brother, are you still there?
Oh, I'm sorry, brother. Oh, I'm sorry. I realized what happened. So I said, once you have the goggles on, you will be so immersed in that reality that you would not know or see or feel what's going on outside of you. Like there are people standing in front of you, watching on the screen what you're doing and what you're saying and everything. But you have no contact with that, and you don't realize what are you doing until you remove the goggles. So while you're doing the test, people are standing around you are looking at the screen and say, oh my god, I can't believe he just stole something. Oh my god, he just took that haram meat and put it in his mouth, and part of the test is a pork. He can't eat pork. It's just part of the test. It's not because God is unable to make us eat pork. It's part of the test. Like, don't eat pork. Once you have the goggle, these are the rules. Don't do these things. Do these things. And we find out that when we have the goggles on, all these things that are supposedly haram for us are haram for a reason within that test, not within the greater reality. Within that test, like, they harm us when we do all these haram things.
Yeah. They could even just simply be because of a test of obedience. Because
Exactly.
I'm doing a video at the moment for Youth Hour, and I think it's your recent one. The non-believer believes in the fitrah, part 1, and there's a moment where you're discussing something with him, and it's about the apple, I think. And like the Abbas is talking about the apple is in and of itself is like this arbitrary object.
Yeah, I remember.
And
that.
it's like, you know, like who cares about apples? Like what is it about this apple? It's nothing about the apple in and of itself, but there's this whole notion of like, no, you're being commanded to do something. Like, are you going to like be humble and understand the position that you're in relation to the one that's commanded you? That you're ignorant, you're finite, you're naive, and he is all-knowing, he is wise, and he's not finite, he's infinite. And you know, there's obviously a humbleness in that, and there can be a, you know, we refer to it as a slip, but this forgetfulness, and it sort of linking it to what you were saying as well. You know, the virtual reality goggles and the veil. Now it's funny because, like, inshallah, I can't take the veil off you completely, but there is a way of like peeking behind certain layers, and you can do it right now. Yeah, because this happens all the time. We become very forgetful, and we become very soaked in to things outside of us or to a particular task, and it can be quite remedial. Maybe it's the stream, maybe it's you're doing the dishes or whatever, but like life just sort of captures you sometimes, and you get stuck in it, and you just sort of go from one thing to the next mindlessly almost. And it doesn't have to be like that. Like right this very second, yeah, we can look at how weird the universe is. Like it's really, really strange. And you know, like people we mentioned the virtual reality goggles. When they first came out, we were putting them on and we were getting shivers. Yeah, we were like, whoa, look at this. This is weird. Like watching, like floating above Earth and things like that. And we'd be so amazed by it. And then we'd take them off, and like all we could think about was our experience inside that virtual reality goggles. And we're looking at something that is like more than 8K, 50 billion K. Like everything you see in reality, it isn't reducible to just a certain number of pixels like you can do on a screen. Yeah, because that's all a screen is. It's just a number of pixels, and it's limited to however many. We can get 8K now, or like a big whoop. Like the universe can be broken down into tiny, tiny particles. So this is like if it's a K anything, it's a big number. Yeah, there's so much detail in the universe that it is completely incomprehensible. Like even like something simple like a maggot, yeah, pretty arbitrary little stupid little thing, just wiggles about, eats stuff, and cocoons itself. Like in that, there is so much complexity and weirdness. There is so much like to just sit and be in awe of. But we get soaked into day-to-day stuff so much that we become blind to it. Like the things that you have in your house, your washing machine, these lights, these computers. Like I'm talking to you, I'm in a room. We're not with each other. I'm not sat next to you. I don't know where you are. I don't know. Brother Imran's in London somewhere. I don't even know where in London. But like all of these eds are coming together through what? Through internet waves, whatever that is. There's signals, information flying through the sky. And like we're all having this mad conversation. And half of the time, like the craziness of reality just completely passes us by. But all it takes is just to sit there and look at it and think about how weird everything is. And all of a sudden that veil's gone for a moment, just for a second. Like how strange is everything? How many things are there that I should be like in awe of and be grateful for? Like, you know, the go-to one is usually eyesight. Like, yeah, like when you've got your eyesight and you're just using it, you take it for granted. You're not like, woo, I can see. You're not like crying every day because of the beauty of color. Like on a bright summer's day when the sun comes out and the sky is blue and all of the vegetation is green and the light just hits it perfectly, and it's like, wow, look at that. Like how often, like you should be constantly in tears, because if that was when you get something in your eye, or like, you know, something hurts or whatever, like when that's taken away from you, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I wish I had it. I wish I had just appreciated it while I had it. Or, you know, same with good health. When we're in good health, we just take it for granted, and then all of a sudden we feel sick, and then we're like, oh, if only I could get good health again. And then you get it again. It's like Allah says in the Quran, you're like, mankind screams for help when he's on a sinking ship, and then when he gets what he wants and he gets dry land, it's like he never had any problem. Like he never called to Allah at all. and he just goes about his day because mankind is forgetful. Mankind, just gets sucked into the day to day. And like, as much as I can maybe draw attention to the weirdness,
we'll forget. Brother, I'm sorry. The point you made is like is so good. It actually it reminds me of this this idea that I get, and God forbid I mean to say that this is how creation was. By no means. But let's just pretend, of sake of pretending, in this virtual reality where you're gonna put on the goggles, but you will be judged for what you did while you had the goggles and those electrodes, and your memory was wiped off from the real reality where you only witness and experience things within that virtual reality. But before you put on the goggles, you're told that once you enter that reality, there will be some things that will work for you and some things that will work against you. For example, if you're a man and you're extremely handsome, it will be a temptation in that world, and it will cause you maybe to attract other women and cause you to sin. And maybe if you are very rich, then that money will be a temptation, and you will be doing all things that will cause you to sin. And if you're very strong, you're gonna have the duty to protect the weak and stand for what is right and what is just, and what is all these things we're gonna be judged on in after the game is over. So now, if you're selecting your tools for the game and you're wise, you're probably gonna say, you know what? I don't want to be very rich. I don't want to be very handsome. I don't want to be very strong. I don't want to be very this, because you're trying to limit that temptation that might cause you to lose the game. But then once you decide all that and you put on the goggles, then all of a sudden you're complaining. You're like, I wish I was a very handsome man. I wish I was very strong. I wish I was very rich. This is not fair. God is not fair. Why isn't he? Or the game lord is not fair. Why isn't he? Why is he giving this guy a villa and a boat and this and private jet, and like I'm struggling to pay my rent, and so
yeah, people sometimes as well, we get sucked into the problems that we have. You can't, and then you draw a line around that problem and say, I cannot see why this would happen to me. And half of the time, like, a bit of time makes that line that you've drawn around the problem dissolve. Like when I was younger, certain things happened to me. When they were happening, I was like, oh, how could it be? And you put a bit of distance between you and it, and it has less of an impact on you. And that line can be drawn a bit further. And you go, okay, maybe I can see why that could have happened to me, or what consequences came from that may have been good, or what consequences were taken away from me because of that thing. Whatever it is. Like, there's so many things that you can conceive of if you just give yourself a chance to sit down and think about these things. Because this is the thing, like the biggest links to like the problem of evil, and people are complaining about evil that has befallen them. They say, I think it is gratuitous. I think there is no good reason why this happened. But it's like, do you know that? Do you know that for sure? Because in order to say that, you have to have all the facts. You need to know how this event interplays into everything around you. Yeah, not just you in that particular moment, but you as an individual throughout an entire life, you as an individual who has interactions with your environment and the people around you, and how it impacts and affects them. And can you say that you know without a shadow of a doubt that there is no wisdom behind it? And the answer to that question is no, you do not know without a shadow of a doubt. And it's the same lesson is taught in Surah Kahf with Musa alayhi salam when he's with Khidr. I keep mentioning this story a lot. I don't know if I'm repeating myself to the same people or if this is a different circumstance. But what happens is he has these natural reactions. Khidr does something and he's like, oh, why are you doing that? And he's like, the intuition is this is an injustice. Why would you do this? And he says, I told you couldn't be patient with me. And he's like, yes. And he humbles himself and he realizes, I'm jumping to conclusions. Maybe I am ignorant of some facts that would make me understand what is going on here. And in the end, that's exactly what happens. That circle around the immediate environment is what's happening when he damages the boat. Musa alayhi salam's reaction is, I am putting a circle around this moment around this event with me and you in this boat, and I'm not thinking beyond that. And in that circle, within this limited context that I've artificially forced upon the moment, that is an injustice. It's like, well, hold on a second. Khidr comes along and draws a bigger circle. And he goes, there's a big king coming about. He's going to be taking everyone's boats. And he's not going to take this boat if there's a little hole in it. And that's going to save this family. And that might have a huge impact. God knows on how many generations that came after that. This, like the butterfly effect, a little butterfly can flap its wings 1 minute, and that can have huge implications thousands of years down the line. And you look at Noah alayhi salam, one family, and we all come from him. So, these things can have huge impacts, little things, insignificant things. You're complaining about things that are really important to you in that moment, but there could be a tiny thing, like maybe you put the glass there instead of there, or, you drank this tea instead of that tea, or you put too many sugars or not enough in. Like all of these things have God knows how many consequences. And we cannot go ahead and talk about these things as if we know that they're gratuitous, because we just simply don't. But I'm going to have to leave it there, brother. So I'm going to have to let you go. But Jazakallah khair for joining us. And Jazakallah khair.
Barakallahu feek, brother. Barakallahu feek. Good talking to you, brother. And good talking to you, brother Imran.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum
salam. The ultimately you asked about this. That's a good question. I was going to prompt you to that question about the teenager.
Yeah.
Was that the one you're going to ask?
Yeah. So can you help a confused teenager? So if she's 18 and over, she can use the service. If she's not, someone that she knows who is 18 or over can use the service, and we can talk to them, and then they can relay the information or try to help. So this is the way we work is we're not just helping individuals that are suffering through the problems themselves. We're trying to equip people who know individuals who are suffering through problems to help them to deal with it. To help equip you do the job that I do, or Dr. Imran here. Like, and it's not impossible. Like I wasn't even a Muslim once upon a time. So, if I can do it, you most certainly can. And half of the time it's just, trying to get through certain assumptions that people make. Like the amount of times that someone's come in with an argument and you're like, well, hold on. Like, in order to say that with so much conviction, with so much confidence, you got to say about X, Y, Z, and I can guarantee you don't think you know about X, Y, Z at all. And but then he says here, she is a woman. If she's already age 18, she's more than welcome to use the service. You can send this link to her. I'll put it in the chat. Just forward it, and she's more than welcome to make use of that. But yeah, so were you going to add to that as well, brother?
No, I was just going to add to that. Really, I think the thing that's really important for me, because we all suffer in our lives, it's sort of just part of living.
Yeah.
And the thing to remember, the thing that I try to remember is actually, for every individual is important to Allah. Nothing is insignificant, and nothing happens to us without some meaning in it. It's meaningful, it's important, and it has some value. And we trust in Allah, and we believe that there is some good outcome in anything that we go through. So I think that for me, that's always held me in good. And when I've looked back on difficulties that I've had, I've always learned, actually, from this, I learned these things.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have learned them otherwise.
Yeah,
or actually, I was heading down a darker path. Maybe in a path that I wouldn't have liked myself if I had gone down that path. And this event that happened that stopped me and made me go another way, actually, when I look back, I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
But during the time I was going through that, it was a nightmare.
Yeah, and it's
everything was crashing around you, subhanAllah. So there's always a hikmah that maybe we don't know, and this is the moral underneath the story of Khidr alayhi salam, that we don't know, and so we can't make hasty judgments.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it is just like putting a bit of effort in, or having patience. Because sometimes, because I've had conversations with people and they're so annoyed about something, and it's like, oh, like the gratuitous evil again. Yeah. So so they say, why do bad things happen to animals? It's like, can you not think of a single reason why? Like, I'll give you a random thing, and I want you to try and tell me why you think this event might have happened, or what potential reasons. You might not get the right answer, but if you can think of at least one, yeah, and you can always think of more than one, but if you can think of at least one, you have at least a potential reason or wisdom behind that. So the example I gave was a baby deer burning in a forest. It's like, get the baby violin out, it pulls on the heartstrings, poor little deer. Why did it burn to death in the forest? And it's like, okay, yeah, no, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? Like, why would a baby deer just die in the forest? So think about it. Can you think of any potential reason at all as to why it could have died? Maybe it was harboring a disease that, had it been allowed to continue to live, might have spread and killed X amount of people that may have been good, and there may have been great benefit in them. It could have been heading straight towards a road at some point in its life, ran in front of a car and killed a family of beautiful people. It could have done X, it could have done Y. Like, there could have been any number of reasons as to why it happened. Yeah. And all of a sudden it's not gratuitous. Now, if I can give these reasons, like, you could, of course, you can object to them if you want to, but there's still reasons there. And the objection is only, again, going to take you so far, because you're limited in your knowledge. That could play the whole butterfly wing thing. There could be massive consequences with letting this particular thing happen or not happening. And it's just putting that effort in, like, just to think and say, okay, I will make an attempt here to try and see if there is a reason in it. And looking for it is enough sometimes just to reveal it to you. And I've heard a beautiful dua. I can't remember who told it me. I don't know if it's like a proper dua that we get from the religion or something, but I heard someone say it, and it was, "Oh Allah, don't give me an easy life. Give me the strength to overcome a difficult one." Or they may have taken it from something else and combined it with something. Allah Alam. But, like, because within the Islamic religion as well, we have this notion of this concept that pain isn't a bad thing. That, like, Allah says that He will test the ones He loves over and over and over and over again until they walk along the earth without sin. Yeah, no matter what it is that you go through, anxiety, hardship, even the pricking of a thorn, that Allah Azza wa Jalla will expiate your sins because of it. And on the Day of Judgment, you'll sit there and you'll see these sins falling off your pile, and you'll be told, this is because you suffered this with patience. This is because you suffered this with patience. And you'll be sitting there wishing you'd suffered more.
SubhanAllah.
Wishing you suffered more. And the other hadith about the person who had suffered is taken, and he's not even in paradise, he's just dipped in it. Like, a part of his body for a brief moment is in there, and he's asked, did you ever suffer? And he's like, no. And this isn't inconceivable, because you see this happening on earth. When people experience joy, they forget whatever pain they've gone through. Someone wins the lottery, all of a sudden.
Ask a mother who's just delivered.
Yeah. Like, the amount of emotions they go through, the joy, all of this, like, everything else just drifts. You forget about it. Doesn't matter what you've suffered. Like, I've got scars on my face. I don't know if you can even see. From when I fell down the stairs when I was 1. I can't even remember that pain. Yeah. I only know about it because I got a scar there that reminds me that must have hurt. But, and there's things that I do remember happening, like I've got scars here. I remember putting my arm through a window. I know that hurt, but I don't remember the pain. Like, my arm doesn't hurt anymore. It's just a scar.
Yep.
It's just a memory. It's something that floats away. It's like looking at it through a fog. And, if this can happen in the dunya with little trifling pieces of pleasure and joy, that you can forget everything all of a sudden. Imagine, like, Allah is describing, there's a book that I'm reading at the moment. I must have bloody misplaced it. I can't remember where I'll put it. It's here it is. A concise description of Jannah and Jahannam. And basically, it's, it does what it says on the tin. It gives you a concise description of Jannah and Jahannam. And Jannah is described in such a way, that, like, it's inconceivable, like, the type of joy that you're going to experience, the type of bliss that you'll have when you get to Jannah. If the lottery can make you forget what you've gone through, the lottery is like absolutely nothing in compared to this. Infinite bliss, infinite joy, forever. No boredom, no tiredness, no like on the earth, if I play a game too much, I get bored of it. We've got to move on. Like, no, like in Jannah, there's no law of diminishing return. Like every time you return to something, the next experience conceivably could be better than the last time you did it. And that could just keep doing that forever. Like every time you go back to the game, you're like, wow, this is the best game. It's even better than the last time. Like, all these laws could be completely inversed. Where people say, oh, won't you get bored in heaven for an infinite amount of time? No, we only get bored on earth because we're wired to get bored. But it's not, inconceivable that wiring could be completely changed. So that boredom just doesn't ever hit you. In fact, the opposite. You get more and more, and you think you've hit a peak. You're like, how on earth can it get any better than this? Imagine, Dr. Imran, me and you, roaming around playing real life Call of Duty or Battlefield or something. Like, you shoot me. When I die, I respawn, and then whoa, and then like we're all running about, we're killing each. We get to do what we want. You like, subhanallah. Whatever you're going through, whatever it is you're going through, you're gonna forget. You're gonna be too focused.
Inshallah.
I mean, but we'll leave it there.
Inshallah.
Do you want to give a little closing statement before we end the stream?
No, alhamdulillah. I think I would just say that take advantage of the service that's being offered at the Lighthouse Project. I think it's an excellent thing, inshallah. And may Allah accept everyone's efforts in sort of organising it and making it happen, inshallah.
I
have to take my leave now, inshallah, Brother Yusuf.
Yeah, no, Jazakallah khair for joining us. So it's a pleasure having you around, bro. And until next time, assalamu alaikum. And yes, brothers and sisters, so I'm going to put the link on the screen. I'm just going to type it out. sapiensinstitute.org/lighthouse. So just to reiterate, as we end this now, this is a completely free service. There's no hidden charges. It's not, oh, you've booked now. You owe us £700 in a sneaky letter we send to you 3 weeks later. No, it's free. Yeah, there's no charge, no pennies. You just use the service as and when you need it, related to these subject matters. So you go to the link that's running along the bottom of the screen here. Boop. This one. Go to that link. It should be in the description. So if you're watching this not live, check it out in the description. If you're watching it live, it is in the chat as well, in the live chat. So click that link, book a meeting. And the meeting is for people who are, ex-Muslims or current Muslims who are on the brink of leaving, or there's certain things that are chewing your head out and you're not too sure how to deal with them or how to answer them, or like how to reconcile certain things. You're in university, you're at, whatever it is, like you just tune your brains out. You don't really feel like there is anyone around you that you can talk about these things to. We're here for you, inshallah. So book a meeting. It's completely private. We don't record these sessions and then make them public. They are recorded for legal reasons, but that's just because if something goes wrong or something, and something has to go to court, may Allah forbid, then obviously those recordings are there because we are a charity, and so it's kept there for training and quality purposes and that kind of thing. But it's not put onto YouTube. It's not made public. It's not sent to anyone. These things are kept completely confidential and private, and it's there for you to use. And if you have one meeting and you've got 20 questions and you only get through one or half of one, you can book another meeting and you can use the service for yourself, for people you can pass it on. Use it, please. This is what it's here for. And I want you to book if you feel like you need it. Don't, if you're sat there like, no, I feel like I need it, but I don't want to take the time away from other people. Don't think like that. If you feel like you do need it, book a meeting. Go on, find the meeting that is suitable for you. Make sure you set calendar reminders in your phone when you do book the meeting so you don't forget about the meeting. We do send Google Calendar invites as well, so make sure to accept them when you get them in your email. And show up, have a conversation with either myself or one of the other mentors. Like I say, it's completely free, completely private, one-to-one. You get a whole hour of our time to just discuss through these problems at your own pace. And inshallah, benefit from it. So it's there for you. It is a service Sapiens Institute is providing for free. We want you to make use of it, or to at least pass it to others so that they may take use of that as well. So I just want to address these last comments before I go. That's the thing. Semantic satiation. I'm a bit small compared to this. Yeah, it's the psychological phenomenon which repetition causes a word or phrase temporarily loses its meaning. That is what I've suffered through. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to everyone who said salam. Our test in the dunya is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rahmah. I lost my hair at a young age and it bothered me. As an older man, I realized it was to protect me from my vanity. Alhamdulillah. Everything is good for the believer. Everything is good for the believer. If something good befalls him, he is thankful. He says, Alhamdulillah. And so it is good for him. And if hardship hits him, if he struggles, he is patient. And so it is good for him. Alhamdulillah for everything. Let's have a look. With regards to requests for Mohammed Hijab, you're best to just forward them to his email. You can find that on his YouTube channel, inshallah. And if he has the opportunity to, I'm sure he will. Thanks for the answer. I felt as though I'm being insincere when, like you said, we can take the external world for granted for the creator's existence. Yeah, especially if it's a basic belief. Like, for example, Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran that we are made to testify of the existence of the Lord before we are placed into our bodies. Now, belief is natural. It has to be. And there's articles on this. You can search Religion is Natural by Paul Bloom. He's an atheist. He's an atheist psychologist. And you'll notice the article isn't atheism is natural. It is specifically theism is natural, or religion is natural. People have certain beliefs and they have them as a basic belief. And this is why you have this cross-culturally. Wherever you go, there is a belief in the transcendent. There is belief in life after death. There is belief in the body and the soul. Yeah, there is belief in all of these things. And they, and this I quote from Paul Bloom, they come for free. They are not learned. So these beliefs, where do they come from? They try to obviously explain them via naturalistic means, but like I just see absolute failure in their attempts to do that. The belief in a higher power, belief in meaning, belief in life after death, all of this makes complete sense, especially within an Islamic framework. We've met Allah, we've testified that we believe in Him, and we're placed in a body, and we know that there is going to be a judgment day. And why do you think kids believe in life after death without having to be taught it? This is the case. It's a cross-cultural study that was done all over the planet. And this is the case even if the parents are atheists. Children believe more readily in a secular environment than adults do. Which is the hadith about the fitrah, that everyone is born upon fitrah, and it is their parents that lead them astray. Or their society. But yeah, we'll leave it there, guys. Jazakallah khair. So yeah, the meetings are online on Zoom. I am open to, so I have an office here in Bolton. If you happen to live in Bolton, you book a meeting and you live nearby, or you're willing to make the journey, I'm happy to do a one-to-one here. You just need to mention that in the application. You could say I live in Bolton, or I live nearby, or I can travel to Bolton, and we can meet up and we can have a one-to-one in face. That's completely optional. It's only me that is available to do the face-to-face one-to-ones. So make sure if you're doing that, make the request with myself. The days I work are Monday mornings. This is the UK time. Monday morning from 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. and the same time on Friday mornings, 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. and Wednesday afternoons. So if you book either of them times, you'll get through to me. And it can be personally, or you can do on Zoom. You cannot spectate, so they're private. So there's the only people that are available, allowed to join the meeting, are the people that have booked the meeting. Sometimes I've had dual meetings, so I've had it where a brother and a sister have come to the meeting together. But yeah, but that's with the consent of the person that's booked the meeting or whoever the meeting is for. But you can't just spectate to the random meetings, unfortunately. Okay, but we'll leave it there. We went a little bit longer than usual, but I enjoyed it. It was a nice conversation. May Allah bless you all. May He grant you all victory in this world and in the next. And like I said, make use of the service, pass it on to whoever you think may need it. It is there for the ummah. So milk it. Get every bit of use out of it you can. But until next time. There's a retreat. I'm going on a retreat to Turkey. If you subscribe to the channel, you've probably seen it advertised. We've been advertising it like crazy. There may be some spaces left. So if you have the ability, do join us. But I'll be going there I'll be in Turkey from the 19th to the 29th. I'll be getting involved in some capacity. I'm not 100% sure like in what capacity yet, but I am going to be there and getting involved. And I'll be there for the whole time. So if any of you are coming, I'll see you there, inshallah. And I'm also going to try to vlog the whole thing as well. So keep your eye out for that as well, brothers and sisters. But I know I said goodbye a lot, so we'll say it again. But other than that, thanks for watching, guys. Allah bless you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.